I just realized in Meredith's background, you have the book.
This is the Henrietta book.
Yeah, yeah, for
we're
the
talking
next one,
about
but
a different one, but I already set it up and I was like, I'm gonna leave it there.
No, I love it.
I don't
and
have
Who's got this book?
I like
Lindsay,
you
do
guys
you
have
have this
books in the
book? I think I
background.
see this book in your background.
Well, I have this version.
There
Same
you go.
thing.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's nice though.
Yeah.
Ah.
Oh,
I'll tell you
that's
what.
right.
That
and you
is
have it
what
too.
made me enjoy this. Purely
Him?
him.
Ah, yes,
Yeah.
Lindsay's, right?
Yeah.
And the little
Yes,
kid.
totally.
Oh, the little kid.
Oh my God, the little kid was very heartbreakingly cute
I
and
couldn't
like
find
innocent
the
and vulnerable.
movie.
Where did you go find this?
It was
called
on
Lion. The
for me,
movie
it
is
was on
called
Prime.
this.
Yeah,
I know.
It's
It was
not.
on
I know it's
Prime.
called Lion.
It was
Oh,
on
okay.
Prime.
Prime
Right.
video.
Okay, should we
Well,
do an
obviously I haven't
intro?
watched
Should
it.
we do an intro?
Yeah,
Let's get
I'll do
organized.
What
one.
we're talking about.
Welcome to our group discussion on my book choice, A Long Way Home, or by Saroo Brierley. Is it Brierley? Brierley?
I thought it was Brierley, but
Saroo?
That's how I would
Brierley,
pronounce
maybe.
it. Yeah.
Okay, Brierley. I tried to listen to him saying his name, but he has such a thick Aussie accent. I
Yeah.
was like,
That didn't
not
help.
helping. It didn't help at all.
Maybe you could try it with an Aussie accent.
And the movie is called Lion.
Is it ghostwritten or it has a co-writer?
it is ghostwritten.
It
I
is
did some
ghostwritten. Okay,
research.
yes.
So tell me more about what
Ooh.
ghostwriting means
Lindsay
first,
did the
Lindsay.
research.
Okay.
So ghostwriting means when somebody will write the book in the style of the person who's telling the story. So they do a lot of interviews. They often record a lot of interviews. They go with them. So in this case, the ghostwriter's name is Larry Buttrose, and he was hired
Pardon?
by Larry Buttrose. Buttrose.
Okay. Just
Buttrose.
making
That's
sure.
really
Kim just needed to make sure there.
Butt roast.
Larry
Okay.
Buttrose,
Yep. Gotcha.
Buttrose. And he was hired by Penguin Books, and he only had 4 months to research the whole thing, do any personal interviews, and write the whole book.
Wow.
So he did it in 4 months.
That's so crazy.
And he has a PhD in creative writing from Adelaide University. But basically, it's a 3-month deadline to do everything.
That's like
And-
university bullshit.
Yeah. So he was told to write in Saroo's voice. So he had to study his idioms and manner of speech over lots of meetings. And he went with him to India. He met his family. He met his family in Hobart. He did the train tour, the train trip with him to relive everything. So he was there through the whole thing when Saroo was going back to see his family. So, and then he took
Cool.
all of those words and all of the interviews and then wrote the book. So it's all the voice of Saroo, but the actual writing of it and putting it together was by Larry Buttrose.
Okay.
So when he went back and was like, I have to do this on my own with Larry.
Yeah, so he went
With Larry.
with Larry, yeah.
But did he do it by himself first and then with Larry, or is that all a big scam?
I don't know. I don't think so, but
But
maybe.
does Larry
But-
get like a pass because he's the ghost writer? You know what I mean?
Yeah, there is a photo somewhere of him with the family, but he's not in anything else. So
Depends on if you believe in ghosts.
That's why the end of the book where he's retracing going back on the train was really long and drawn out for me. But maybe that's because the ghostwriter was actually there. So he's like, I can write a lot about this trip.
yeah,
because
maybe.
I was there to witness it. Because I felt like that area was like, could have been cut down, way down.
I'm telling you, like from where he began looking for the station could have been cut down. Like I did not need a play-by-play of his everyday 8 hours a day, like Google searches.
Every step he took.
Like it
yeah,
was,
I
yeah,
agree with
it
that.
was-
I feel like when books and authors do that, they take away so much from the main point, because then all you're thinking is like, move on. Like, you know, like I get the point, let's move on. And then that's kind of, for me anyways, that's kind of what like sticks in my head. I'm like, it was good,
Oh,
except for, you
okay,
know.
You're still looking.
Yeah.
Same. Yeah, like we get it for 8 chapters. You're
Yes.
looking, you're
Oh, but
looking,
if
you're
the
looking.
looking
Yep,
was
it took a
different
while.
somehow, right? Like if it had
Nothing.
changed somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I wonder too, like, I mean, part of that's probably this 3-month deadline, and they probably said we also want X number of words. You know, like
Still, those things make me angry,
I blame
right? Because they
Penguin.
create this shitty book then.
Yeah.
Right? Like it has to have this
On
many
an
words and in
incredible
this amount of
story.
time.
But the
Yeah.
story,
Yes,
that's the
exactly,
thing. They already
that's my
knew the
point.
story was going to be good, so they're like,
I
we
feel
can,
bad
It can be
because
rushed.
it's-
It's fine.
It's a memoir, so I don't ever want to really cast judgment on someone's actual experience. And I don't even know how to say it, like a delicate memoir, right? Like it's a kind of a traumatic story, like blah, 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 right? But the book itself was terrible. Did not like it at all because of the way.
Yeah, I agree with the writing. I didn't enjoy the writing a lot. It was okay. It wasn't like it didn't grate on me or anything, but I felt like it could have moved along in spots. But what do you guys think about the story? Because I thought the story was, I mean,
Insane.
Okay, first of all, the kid
yeah.
who needed to remember, and in his self, a 5-year-old, we're saying, just repeating everything he can remember to himself, like that he retained this memory, and he's like, I have to hold on to this. Like that alone is amazing. Like how determined he was to hold on to his family, even though he was even like in a different country. Like he held on to it. Like it's amazing.
And his
that
memories
part is
didn't
amazing.
change. Because I find sometimes I'll remember back onto some things, and slowly over time they change, right? Because you're just remembering the last time you remembered. And it totally could have been a case, because what he found them 25 years later, I believe it was. He could have totally forgot.
Your brain changes a lot in 25 years.
Exactly, right? And just
even
even the landmarks you're thinking of, they could have been gone. They could have been different, and it was just like the universe was telling him to go find his home again.
That's like an interesting parallel, right? Because the landscape of your brain can change in that amount of time, as well as the physical landscape could actually change. And luckily for him, he was able to maintain his landscape, and the landscape that he came from didn't change very much. So he was able to find it on Google Earth or whatever when he finally finished his research, I guess.
8 chapters later. No.
But also the fact that his mom didn't move, like she still had this hope. Like her other children moved, and she just was like, I'm staying here just in case one day he comes back. Still 25 years later, she's just like, I'm gonna wait and see.
That's insane, right?
It's
but
such
also
a
feels
motherly-
like
it
feels like vibes, right? Like she knew, you know?
Yeah.
She knew.
Like so many people say they have that motherly instinct when their children, when something bad happens to them, they know, you know, they're like, no, I can tell that something bad happened, or they've moved on. Yeah, for her to stay, incredible. Like that's just
incredible.
Oh yeah,
it's probably incredibly painful too, living in hope all those years. And when the guy was like, come with me, I'm gonna take you to see your mother, I was like, oh my god, yay! Like you're like cheering for him, but it's like, oh my god, that's like,
I couldn't even imagine the emotions. Yeah.
And that she knew, because she went to the mosque that day and prayed to God to see her son, and then he came that day. I was like bawling my eyes out when I read that part. I was like,
yeah. It is an emotional story. Like it's absolutely incredible. And we hear so many, oh, the internet's bad, technology's bad, especially as a kid, you're told that, right? And for it to be how he got home, I just love those stories. It's really cool. And just to be a kid and remember all of that, there's no chance I would have found my way home.
What was the book written?
Book interrupted. This interruption is brought to you by the perks of studying wine. Ooh. This is what I am drinking while trying Moët and Chandon. Brut, Champagne, non-vintage, and these are my scribbly notes, which I'm going to type up in a minute for a tasting note, because right now I'm studying sparkling wine. Cheers. Book interrupted.
It's also interesting that he, like, as a 5-year-old, mispronounced his name. Right? He's like, what? Now this is my name, even though it was Saroo, not Saroo.
And that's why the movie's called Lion, right? Because that's
what it stands for.
Yeah.
Or what it translates to. Or,
yeah.
I can see that though, like him mispronouncing his own name, like, you know, how kids, you know, oh, they call whoever whatever because they can't say whatever, right? Yeah. So maybe he just couldn't do shh yet. So he's like, oh, I'm Saroo, and then oh, who knows?
And
what do you guys think of the movie?
Innocent and cute.
5-year-old, yeah. 5 years old. Like, it's amazing. I liked also at the end that they said that it's shocking that he survived for a few weeks in Calcutta at 5.
A 5-year-old
all by himself.
I wonder if that's partly due to how his life was when he lived with his mom, that they were already living in such squalor that
And he had a
you
lot
know,
of responsibility as a 5-year-old. Like he
I
had to
think
take care of his
that too.
little
True.
sister.
And, like,
so
he was already
resourceful
looking
already.
yeah, he was begging people for food. He was, like, so I wonder if that's a really big part of how he was able to survive for that long.
Yeah, like if he
How
had
about the
more
guy that
privilege,
saved
he
his
would have
life
been less.
twice?
Mhm.
Saved him from drowning twice.
Why did they
Oh,
put that?
yeah.
Oh, hey!
Oh, there's balloons. Look at that happen.
Save his
Why?
life
Why did that
twice.
happen?
Before.
I have
I
no
don't know.
idea.
Saved his life, and it's a celebration.
Saved his
Wow.
leg twice. Sorry,
That
can
was
I? This
magical,
kid
just like the
drowning?
story.
Why wouldn't they put that in the movie?
The balloons?
No,
No,
the
the
guy
guy.
saved his life twice.
I don't know why sometimes when movies they cut out, I feel, such important things.
I like the movie better than the book because they added in some storylines ish, I guess. But I also thought that the movie was a little bit like focusing on weird things. Did you guys like the
They had a
movie?
different focus.
Definitely
I
different.
thought the movie was really good.
Okay.
I enjoyed the movie a lot.
Mhm.
I watched it first.
You saw the
actually.
movie first. That's what I was gonna ask too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I watched the movie afterwards, and I think I kind of went in and set myself up for failure because I was expecting it to be like, I don't know if you guys have watched this movie, The Impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was expecting it to be just catching my attention at every scene and just really, really heartfelt. And I didn't get that same feeling with the movie. So I think that's why I didn't super love the movie myself. And it may have been different if I went into it without kind of expecting that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, usually when I watch a movie after reading a book, it's because the book was so good that you're now excited to be able to see it as a movie. And I didn't think that the book was so great, so I watched the movie out of duty for this podcast, you know what I mean? Rather than a desire to really watch it. And then I was just kind of like, well, I mean, it was okay, but I don't know if there was something about the relationship, like his relationship with his girlfriend, or they did some focusing in other areas that wasn't really part of the book. Didn't really enhance the movie, and I was just kind of like, okay, well, okay,
Yeah,
whatever.
weren't they fighting in the movie? I saw the movie a while ago too.
Yeah.
Didn't they fight in
From
the
the
movie?
book?
A little
it sounds
bit.
like she was very supportive, right?
And also like and
Yes.
he told his mom sooner, I think, in the book too, and he was like not telling his mom. Like there was like these other kind of themes playing out in the movie that weren't really true to the book and didn't really help the movie either. So I was kind of like, why is it like this? Like
manipulation.
I liked the concept of what it's like if you are adopted in any kind of scenario, and the idea of feeling like you love your family so much that raised you, but you also feel like you're missing something from your biological family, I guess. And so I thought that was an interesting, like, the idea of what it would be like to feel so much love for two different things and to try to like have them both in your heart at the same time.
I
Be
think
loyal to both loves.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's what helped him to maintain that memory that Mary was kind of impressed that he did since he was 5, because it would be a constant reminder, like, this isn't actually my family. Like, I can't forget my family. And though, like, his circumstances were so unique too. It's not like he was given up for adoption. He was actually just lost. And then he's like, I guess I'll go with this other family. This is the best thing I got going for me right now. Like,
I also have it's in the book. Now that I know it's a ghostwriter, I don't feel like it was him. But in the book, he mentioned so much. Like, I felt like he was struggling with wanting to make sure his family in Australia felt loved, despite him having this desire to see his family that he lost, right? And they just kept on repeating that narrative so much through the book that I thought he was feeling insecure about making his family in Australia feel loved. But now that I know it's a ghostwriter, he was just
Making sure that
inundating
message is
books
in
like
there.
that.
You
Yeah.
probably like make sure you put
Yeah.
this in.
Yeah,
He's
because
like,
like
okay, I put it in over
Yeah,
and
yeah.
over.
yeah, when I
Many
was listening
times.
to the book, I thought he wrote it himself because I didn't think it was well written. Right. So I was
I
like,
thought
well,
the same
obviously,
thing.
like, yeah,
I was like,
he's
well,
not
he's an amateur writer. It's okay.
right. Let's give him a break. Exactly. And then I thought there was maybe, I don't know, it's gonna be terrible if it's like 70,000 words or whatever, but I thought there was maybe 5 sentences that I was like, I get it. Like, that's a great sentence. Good job. Edit away all the
Leave
rest
it
of
at
the
that.
information. This book is
Yeah.
5 sentences long and we're good. Like,
It did seem a
no,
little
not
bit
really,
like
but
he
there was
was-
a couple lines where I was like,
Yeah.
that you've done it. You've conveyed exactly what I think you were trying to convey, you know?
Do we know if the ghost, like what ethnicity the ghostwriter is?
White guy, white
I'm
man.
almost feeling like perhaps a similar ethnicity may have done better.
Oh, yeah.
See, there he is.
It's so hard for
There's Larry.
Okay.
Good old butt
Larry.
rose.
I'm wondering if that's kind of why there, because it almost seems like a disconnect when I read like the summary on Google just kind of when we had all picked our books. And then going to read the actual book, I felt like there was a little bit of a disconnect in how intense the story maybe should have been.
Totally.
Yeah, and I'm almost, maybe there's some correlation between not having lived a life like that in any way.
Because I thought that too. I was like, maybe this, again, I'm thinking the amateur guy, like amateur writer is writing his story. And I felt that disconnect too. And I thought it must have been protective. Like he was dissociative because how else are you going to get through that than, you know, separating from the experience, right? But it's really just because it was another person writing it that didn't actually have the experience, I guess.
Yeah, and it's hard to write a book in 3 or 4 months. Like that
It's
is
really
extremely
tough.
hard. And then
Crazy.
to try to do it in somebody else's voice, like I
Why
can't
did they make
imagine.
that deadline? Like, do you have any info
Right?
about like
That's
why
what
it had to
I
be such a
wouldn't
fast turnaround?
I don't know. I think they had heard about the story and so they thought we need to get this book out probably when it's still fresh in people's minds, is
Yeah.
my guess, so that they could sell the book. Because if it's years later, they're gonna be like, I kind of remember that from years ago. So
Maybe they wanted to make the
And
book
that is
and
hard,
the movie
like-
kind of like back to back too, right? I don't know. I don't know when the movie was made, but maybe it was like
no, I think the movie was years later. I thought the movie was 2017 or something, but
And
I
do
can
we
look
know
it up.
why there's a ghostwriter? Like, why didn't he just write the? I guess maybe he didn't feel he could.
it's hard to write a book.
And
Fair,
maybe you
yeah,
could,
fair.
especially in 3 months.
Yeah, fair enough.
You're like, I can't write a book in 3 months. Give me 3 years, maybe.
Well, that's why I feel like the
Yeah.
book was
Also-
the way it was too, because it sounds like the ghostwriter just wrote down literally what the guy was saying, right?
Yeah,
That's what
but-
8 chapters was. He's like, okay, then what else did you do? Okay,
Yeah.
and then you went back on Google, and then you went to Google again, okay, and then you went to a train station, right? Okay, yep, got it. Like that's what it read like. Like he literally like step by step said everything.
Writing it till midnight to get the deadline.
Yeah, and not
So-
focusing on like the most important parts. I feel, but I don't know. Again,
What
I'm
is
not a
that?
writer. I don't know super how to tell a good story. I can make people laugh though, but not an intense story. So maybe there's a means to the madness.
I also think like being a ghostwriter for someone that's part of 2 cultures, like he's Australian and he's Indian, so he represents both these cultures. And so maybe like I felt like sometimes when he was in India, the way he was describing India maybe made me think he's not from India. Like I was like, oh, he's so disconnected from his culture now, but maybe because it was the ghostwriter. Because some of the things he described, I think that maybe he wouldn't have. Like it was just a normal thing. Do you know what I mean? Like some of the things like being, I don't know, he made a comment about the hotel room or something. The way he said it was like, who cares? Like, yeah, hotel rooms in India don't look like hotel rooms in Australia. Yeah,
It's
we
just
know.
different.
Yeah, like you could
Do you
go
know
to
what I mean? Like
every
this-
continent and they'd be different.
Right. So I thought that maybe because he was so disconnected from his culture, but then now so much has opened up for me for this book because Lindsay said it was a ghostwriter. I was like, that's
I think
Changed
like
everything.
once he got to India, it really like the story did kind of pick up though. There were so many nice people. that were helping him. Like, he goes there and he doesn't remember how to speak the same language as his family. And there's people who are just like, we're just gonna sit with you all day and be your translator. And how about like the one girl where he's like, oh, I'll pay you, and she was insulted. She's like, no, I'm doing this because like to be friends, like because I like you. And that was one of the strengths of the book, of the stories, because a lot of it was talking about like the relationships and all the people that helped him become who he is today. And like some bad things happened and some good things happened, but in the end, like there was a lot of good in the world, and that helped him survive and become who he was. And like I like also that it talked about, although this tragic thing happened to him in his youth, like it's hard to think like what would have happened if that hadn't happened. It's like in some ways there's some good that came of it. His family did better when he was gone. Like there's these complicated feelings, like how do I feel about this tragic event? Well, my remaining sister and brother were able to get an education and, you know, pull themselves out of poverty a little bit. And like the tragic thing about his, spoiler alert, his other brother, that he didn't know what happened to him, and that's so tragic. Like trying to like get his head around all these things, that like something bad happened to him and his family, and some good came of it too. Like I wish there was more focus on that than the like, and then I looked at Google again. But when he got to India and started exploring those things, that for me, like I really like that part of the book.
I totally agree. I love that you just said that about like the good in the world, because something like terrible happened to him. Oh, is that what
is going on? What? With my Zoom.
just got a thumbs up.
This is what Kim was talking about. We are being gaslit right now, okay?
I told you, man. I told you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thumbs up.
I do that a lot anyway, so good job, Zoom.
That's so weird.
Just like random thumbs up. I'm sorry, if you guys want to know what we're talking about, you have to watch the YouTube video, because my Zoom keeps on adding
Link in
things
bio
to my video. I wonder if it's a setting.
It must be, but it seems to be like remotely responding to words, but then when the same words are said again later, it does not respond. So we haven't hacked out like why. Anyway,
I want you to keep it on. Sorry.
Yeah, don't change anything,
don't
because
change
it's wonderfully surprising.
What'll happen next?
Did you also switch your mug? Did you switch
my
totally.
Yeah, because while you were talking, I saw that and oh, there it is again. The thumbs up just came back, guys.
That's the computer. Good job.
Julie,
You found the difference, Ashley.
Oh,
Thumbs up.
yeah.
That's correct.
You win the prize.
Do you see like positive affirmations? They really just help you, because that made me feel so happy.
Yeah, right?
I got it right.
Thumbs up. Totally.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I always have a lot of drinks.
Anyway.
These are not my cups. I'm recording from a remote location today.
What were you saying, Kim, before the
Sorry,
thumbs
Kim,
up?
before
Do you
the thumbs up
remember?
happened.
I do
agree
remember.
with you.
Okay.
I was trying to say that I think that it's a really great message that Mare's pulling out of the book, because like literally as like someone who cares about other people, having them all of a sudden disappear from your life is like the worst thing you can think of, right? Rather than this being a story about how terrible the world is and all the bad things that could have happened or even did happen on his journey. Like I like that she's highlighting that there's good people in the world. Good things can happen. And I love the theme of all of the people it took to get him where he's at, from adoptive parents to orphanage workers to train station drivers to other kids on the street who gave him a piece of cardboard to sleep on. You know, I think that's a really great, that makes me, you just saying that, Mare, makes me like this better now. I didn't like it, but you said that and now I'm like, oh, okay, I like it a little bit. And then the other thing I just wanted to propose to the group, what do you think about, even this kind of touches on Lindsay's point about like that love and like the adjustment or whatever of an adopted situation, like the contrast created by his adopted brother. Like he's an example of potentially how the trauma and impact of the story could have played out. You know what I'm saying? Like that boy wasn't as adjusted. He had other issues. I don't know what his story was to get to the family either, but like You know what I mean? You had what seems to be a well-adjusted Saroo, and then this brother who is struggling just way harder with the exact same set of circumstances. I mean, once he gets to the family, the circumstances that brought him there obviously could have been much different. What do you think about that? Nothing.
No.
Everyone's like, that's a lot to think about, is the thing, is because their experiences weren't the same going in, and you know, the families they came from and the things that happened between being adopted, and like the one kid wasn't adopted quickly. He was there in like a bad situation. I think he experienced some abuse while he was waiting for the adoption to go through. And that's, you know, and then he has to try to deal with that, right? Like, but so young that without the tools, I think.
And do we know, like, was he given up for adoption? Right. So then is he dealing with that abandonment? Like, I don't know. I don't remember details of that child's backstory.
Yeah, he was given up.
And just that difference from being lost and taken versus given up is such a different in your psyche. You know, it's because it's a difference in my family doesn't want me versus my family is probably looking and missing me. Yeah. And just on a psychological perspective, it's so interesting that you have these two kids who have both gone through clearly not great childhoods to get to being adopted and where they were, and both have such different problems in so many ways, you know, like it's abuse happening to someone and traumatic events doesn't mean you're gonna be XYZ, you know, it just it shows up in many different ways, and I think that's neat. It's a little frustrating sometimes because you're just like, why? But it is neat to see how different people act from trauma just in general.
Yeah, it's so like unique.
Yeah. And I wonder too about like genetically, like obviously Saroo's mom was a believer who, you know, stayed positive, and, you know, so I wonder you know, they talk about how, you know, happiness and faith and all those things are partly genetic as well, our capability of feeling that. So some people live on this scale and some people live on this scale and some people live on that scale, like it just depends. So, you know, being this mom that you know stayed there and had hope and all that, you know, and he had hope, I don't know, maybe there's a genetic component there.
Maybe his capacity for hope was different, is what you're saying.
And
maybe
I get it.
Love is protective, right? So regardless of what their life was when they were together, there was never any question that mother loved children and each sibling loved each other, right? Like they all had that love, right? So that is protective genetically, or at least in your systems when you get set up, right? You're not set up already hyper aware of danger because you have that, whereas the other brother may not have ever had that set up, considering that he was given, like he may have come from much more difficult circumstances that didn't have this solid foundation of love.
We have just 5 minutes left, so everyone should go around and say if they recommend the book or the movie. I can go first. Okay. I would recommend the movie, but I probably the book, just understand, it's not well written, but the story is amazing. So I would probably watch the movie.
That's what I was gonna say.
I'm the same.
I recommend the story.
Yeah,
I was like, I recommend the story. Yeah. I haven't seen the movie because I don't know how you guys. I kept on looking like, where is this thing playing, and I couldn't find it. But now you're saying
that's why.
Oh, really? I'm lucky that I got in there.
That's why I watched it first. I watched it first because it's like, this will be expired in 2 days. I was like, oh shoot! So I watched it, and then I even couldn't get it at my library.
I was just gonna say, you can't get it at the library. Like, it's an old Nicole Kidman movie. Like, I feel like it should be around somewhere.
No, I couldn't get it there. Maybe I can do like interlibrary loans or something. Like where I am, you can get a book from anywhere in the province, but you have to
also you don't need to like go on a long way home to try to watch this movie because it's not like you're going to be finding your mother at the end of it. It's just another mediocre movie. So like if you don't see the movie, you'll probably be okay. is kind of my.
But I'd recommend the story. The book had its slow parts, but like that's okay. There was some really good stuff in there, so it's a very interesting story. It's amazing. It's an amazing story.
Yeah,
And the
I think
pictures
it's
in
a
the
very
middle are
heartwarming
awesome.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the pictures in the book. That's nice too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love
I
when a
would
book has
personally
pictures.
recommend
Me too.
watching interviews versus reading the book or watching the movie, because I think you're getting more of a genuinely authentic maybe retelling or just how he felt, really. But I do think the story is so empowering and beautiful. So I mean, if you can't any other way, then I would pick the book over the movie personally.
Yeah,
I would wonder if
recommend
he's
this
done
story.
podcasts. You know what I mean? Because that would be a good way to hear the story, hopefully directly from him.
Totally.
This podcast?
He should
He
do
should
our
come on.
podcast.
If he
I
wants
should
to come
ask
on.
him.
Let's reach out, y'all.
Yes.
Reach out.
I'll look. I'll look. He might.
All right, we've got a couple people come on, so you
We
never
have,
know. He
yeah.
might say
Totally.
yes.
Yep.
So yeah, I thought it was a beautiful story, and it's nice to read something that has a happy ending in this world, and something that isn't like it's a sad story, but it has so much hope through it. I would much prefer that than something that's really bad at the end. So
The happy endings. That's what I said in my personal journal. Like, it had the happy endings, so that's all I even want ever.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
even though it was slow parts, happy ending. Yeah.
It would be great to hear from himself.
All right.
No more.
What's his name? Saroo
Brierley.
We're
Yeah.
reaching out to
Brierley.
you. Come
Hit us
on our
up.
podcast.
Mhm. We have balloons
All right,
and
I'll
thumbs
try.
up. What more do you
Yeah,
want?
we'll give you a couple
We just
thumbs
don't
up. Maybe.
If I say something, you might get some kind of emoji. We don't know.
Only from Meredith.
If you've enjoyed these video highlights, listen to the full episode on our YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts. Remember to like and subscribe and ring that bell to be notified when new episodes are published. Find out more by going to www.bookinterrupted.com.
Never forget, every child matters.